saw this video from Jen over at the Book Refuge. Now, there's been how many people who have come up with this little thing where it's like 10 books that you need to get to before 2026. So I wanted to challenge myself to try to get to these 10 books before the end of the year, before, 2026. So the first one is My Favorite Hero by Melanie Moreland. Now, I've liked Melanie Moreland for like at least a couple years now. And so when this one came out, I was like, oh, I need to get to that one. So this is definitely one on the top of my TBR that I need to get to. The book before that was pretty good. I liked that one. But there was the first book in the series that I really liked. That was definitely my favorite. So we'll see about this one here, because this one has to do with, I think, a firefighter. So it says, in a house full of rules, the only one they can't follow is staying away. So it says, Jesse Thorne, local hero, firefighter, loner, and now grumpy landlord. She wasn't what he expected. His new tenant is a walking disaster wrapped in sunshine, breaking every rule he sets and driving him insane. Controlling her, impossible. Ignoring her, even harder. And he's not sure he can stop it. She's under his skin, melting his frozen walls and making him question everything, including his stubborn heart. Casey Lawson, so she's roamer, IT specialist, current tenant, and golden ray of trouble. Her new landlord is a thorn in her side with his never-ending house rules. He's always there when things go wrong, rescuing her with his strong arms and that sexy, smug smile, breaking down her defenses, one gesture, one growl at a time. They love to argue, but the chemistry between them is undeniable. And when they give in, it's explosive. Can they escape the fire without getting burned? So I love good banter. So if this has really good banter, then I'll be happy. So yeah, I definitely want to read that one, because I've been liking that series so far. But I like a lot of books from Melanie Moreland. So this one here, I wanted to delve into. This is the first book in a series, and if I do like this first book, then I'll definitely continue on with the series. So this is The Hermit Mafia Empire by Michelle Hurd. I liked her whole other series that she did that was a mafia series, and I'm like, I really liked those books. There was one at the end that I wasn't a fan of, but all the rest of them were really good. I really enjoyed myself, so I figured if I could delve into this series here and start with the first book in the series, then I'll be happy. So this one here, it's supposed to be a standalone, so you can read it as a standalone. You don't have to read it as a series, but I'll probably delve into the rest of them. So I entered an arranged marriage so my sister, Sierra, could marry for love. 3 years later, I'm a widow, and my father arranges for Sierra to meet Dominic Varga. The assassin / arms dealer is as dangerous as he's quiet, which is very unnerving. Needless to say, I'm not happy at all. A deal was a deal, and I kept my end of it. So there's no way on God's green earth I'll just sit back and smile like a good little girl. I'll fight for Sierra's freedom so she won't have to face the hell I was forced to endure. But Dominic doesn't make things easy for me. He's determined to get his hands on half of Dad's empire. When he moves into my family home, my entire routine unravels. I have to fight for more than just my sister's freedom because I'm in danger of losing my heart. I refuse to admit I'm drawn to his darkness. If I do, God only knows whether we'll survive the fire raging between us. So it's basically a mafia romance. But yeah, I wanted to get into that one and see if I like it just the same as the other series I read, or like it even more. But yeah, I've liked like I said, all of the books except for the one I really enjoyed from Michelle Hurd. So I'm like, oh, it's an actual mafia series that I enjoy. Like, I'm not a huge Mafia fan. So the next one, this one here has been on my TBR for a while, and I just keep collecting books from this author. So The Nanny by Lana Ferguson. This one here, it says a woman discovers the father of the child she is nannying may be her biggest only fan in this steamy contemporary romance. So it says, after losing her job and being on the brink of eviction, Cassie Evans finds herself with two choices: get a new job and fast, or fire up her long, untouched OnlyFans account. That's why I was not thinking about reading it for a while, because I don't like OnlyFans as like a form of like employment. I'm not a fan. But there are no jobs to be found. And as for OnlyFans, well, there are reasons she can't go back. Just when all hope seems lost, an ad for a live-in nanny position seems the solution to all her problems. It's almost too perfect until she meets her would-be employer. Aidan Reed, executive chef and DILF extraordinaire, that's dad I'd like to F, is far from the stuffy single dad Cassie was imagining. She is shocked when he tells her she's the most qualified applicant he's met in weeks, practically begging her to take the job. With hands that make her hindbrain howl and eyes that scream sex, the idea of living under the same roof as Aidan feels dangerous, but with no other option, she decides to stay with him and his adorably tenacious daughter, Sophie. Cassie soon discovers that Aidan is not a stranger at all, but instead someone who is very familiar with her, or at least her body. This is why I said, I was like, oh, I'm not sure about this one. She finds herself at a loss for what to do, given that he doesn't remember her. As the relationship heats to temperatures hotter than any kitchen Aidan has ever worked in, Cassie struggles with telling Aidan the truth and the more terrifying possibility, losing the best chance at happiness she's ever had. Now, like I said, I have been kind of putting off this one because of like the OnlyFans thing and everything else that might go with it. But I went and, picked it up. I had picked up the book, and then I had picked up her other books, The Fake Mate. That's another one I need to get through. So that first one will kind of be my deciding factor if I want to continue on with all these books. So you got The Game Changer. I might end up reading a few of them, and if I don't like them, then I'll just get rid of them. Under Lock and Key, and then her latest one, Overruled. So I have all of these, in my collection. So it's like I need to get through The Nanny, or if I DNF it, I'll just move on to the next one and kind of go from there, and hope that if it's an author I like, awesome, but if not, then I'm getting rid of those books. So the next one, this is a part of a series. So this is Call of the Fathoms by Emma Hamm. Now, I was going to read this, but then I ended up putting it in my not in the mood for the moment. And I'm a little bit, I'd say, apprehensive to go into this one because her last book I was not a fan of. The first book I really enjoyed. There was a second book to this series I really enjoyed. And the third one, was not a fan of the heroine. So I'm hoping this one here, I'll like it. So this has to do with it. The series is called Deep Waters. This has to do with like humans are now living underground in like the oceans because of like these huge natural disasters that keep happening on the surface. So they've been living in the ocean for a while, but the mer people, they have a certain names to them, but they're basically mermaids. The mermen and mermaids, they basically don't want the humans there because the humans have caused destruction in the past and stuff. And also they don't want it to ruin their oceans. So it says the deepest waters hide the greatest secrets. It says when a depth strider finds his match in a human warrior, he will do anything to keep her. So this one here, he's called a depth strider. mainly because he's like part of like down in like the deeper part of the ocean. Like the mer people are like here and they're like below her, below. And so they know like more things about like the history of, their people and different things like that. So I wanted to delve into that one, and hopefully it's something I enjoy, like continue on with the series. Because like I said, I like the first 2 books, but that 3rd book just really wasn't a fan. So the next book that's been on my Kindle for a while is Surviving Rain by Shea Savage. I loved Transcendence by her, which was basically a caveman and a woman. She's from the future. She ends up being transported to the past, and she ends up finding love with the caveman. This one here is a little bit different, but it's more of like a deserted island kind of thing. And so now they have to survive. So it's kind of more of another kind of almost survival type of book. So it says, as the captain of a schooner catering to the elite on the Caribbean seas, Sebastian Stark does his best to avoid any human encounters. Interacting with people isn't his thing, and he prefers the company of a bottle of vodka, a shot glass, and maybe a whore. There's no doubt he's hiding from a checkered past, but he does well keeping everything to himself until the night his schooner capsizes and he's stuck on a life raft with one of the passengers. Rain's young, she's cute, and Bastian would probably be into her if he wasn't suffering from alcohol withdrawal. As the days pass, DTs, starvation, and dehydration become the norm. Even the most closed person starts to open up when he thinks he's going to die. But when she realizes their traumatic pasts are connected, it's no longer the elements that have Bastian concerned. He has no idea how he's going to survive rain. So like I said, it sounded interesting, and it's been on my Kindle for a while. So I need to read more of this author because, like I said, I really enjoyed that one book from her, Transcendence. And I'm like, I need to check out some of her other ones, So the next book I need to finally get around to either reading or DNFing it for good. So it's The Wraith King by Juliet Cross. Now this one here, I was gonna read it, and then I ended up putting it on my not in the mood thing. Not in the mood list. So it says, a brutal, bloody war against the ruthless Wraith King has cost the Light Fae more than innocent lives. Una Heartstone, Princess of Issos, learns the price the Wraith King demands to end the war once and for all. Her. In exchange for the safety of her people, she agrees to give her life and her body to her greatest enemy. Golea Verbane is determined to fulfill his destiny and his god's prophecy when his seer points to the Princess of Issos as the key to the rise of the Dark Fae. He demands her submission, but when she finally yields, he realizes Una is much more to him than a priceless weapon. A mystery that has haunted Una for years awakens when she's abducted and dragged back to Nacht Mer. The palace hides many dark secrets and at least one traitor. A traitor determined to take King Gol's throne and all he possesses. What he doesn't know is that Una's magic is more powerful than he can imagine, and that Gol will burn the whole world to save her. So this was kind of like what they would see like a romantasy. And so I was like, well, let me put it on hold. And so I was like, now I need to like delve into it and see if I can get into it or not. So we'll see about that one. So the next one is Nikki Sloan, The Good Girl. Now I've liked this series. This is like the, what's it called? The Nashville Neighborhood, I think. And I really liked the series so far. There was one book that I wasn't really a big fan of. Because they deal with there was multiple partners they were having sex with and stuff. And I just was like, I'm not a huge fan. I'm not a huge fan of that. It felt more like pornography than anything else. Because all of them were basically doing corn. And so I was like, ugh, I'm not sure if I want to, continue on with the series. So I've had this on my TBR for a while. So this one here, it says, what are you supposed to do when your best friend's little sister, a classic good girl, asks you to help her go bad? You should say no. You shouldn't pretend to date her so she can piss off her parents. You definitely shouldn't agree to take her virginity and show her all the experiences she's been missing out on. And you really shouldn't keep it a secret from her brother, the one who's your best friend and business partner. But I don't always make the best choices. In fact, I can be kind of a dick sometimes. And I know that if I don't do it, someone else will, and I can't have that. If anything, it means I get to be the good guy for once. I just wasn't prepared for how gifted this good girl would be at going bad. I believe this is a previous character where I think he was previously from the first book, I think. And so I think this is now his story. So I wanted to delve in because I've been meaning to get back into that author again, because like I said, I did really like the Nashville Neighborhood series, with the exception of like that one book. And then there was another book that was a part of that series too that I ended up skipping over, that was more of a Menage a Trois series, or Menage a Trois book, and I was like, yeah, I skipped over that one. But there was a few I really liked in that series, like The Pool Boy. I love that one. That one was really good. So there was a few in the series that I have been enjoying. And so this one here, I was like, I need to get through it. I need to get through it and see if I, like it. Because there's another series that I need to delve into that Nikki Sloan has done. And I need to delve into that other series and see if I like that one. Because hers are definitely more erotic, and I'm not always a fan of erotic. It depends on what it is. So the next book I wanted to get into before the end is Heart in the Highlands, like Heidi Kimball, by Heidi Kimball. Now I believe this is a more clean historical romance, so it doesn't have any open sex scenes and stuff like that. So I wanted to check out this author because Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life, she really enjoys this author, and so I wanted to delve in and see how good this author is. So it's been on my list for a little while. So it says, an arranged marriage was never what Callum Darrington, future Duke of Edenbane, imagined for himself, but with the well-being of his uncle's family hanging in the balance, Callum strikes a bargain with his father and reluctantly agrees to tie himself to a stranger. The reality of the lovely Lady Catherine is more than he could have hoped for, and their wedding heralds a bright new future for the couple. Until Callum discovers his father deliberately deceived him, Callum lashes out, setting in motion heartbreak not even he could have foreseen. 4 years later, Callum is ready to piece together the marriage he so carelessly destroyed, but their years apart have hardened Kate. She is not the naive and trusting young woman she once was, and she has no intention of allowing Callum a foothold in her life or her heart. Despite her coldness, Callum works to regain her trust and rebuild their marriage, not realizing Kate harbors a secret that could change everything, and this time there is much more at stake than just her heart. So this one sounded interesting, of like a second chance thing, of like, obviously they had it was more of an arranged marriage, and she started to feel things for her, and then he kind of like lashed out, and he hadn't seen her in 4 years. So it sounded interesting, of like him doing a redo, having a redo of saying like, I need to be better, for her, and work on the marriage. So it sounded really interesting to me. So I was like, you know what? I want to delve into it. And I don't mind if it's more of a slower progression, as long as it's good, as long as it keeps keeps me going with the book. I don't mind if it's like more of a slower burn type of thing. And then, yeah, like I said, I believe this author is clean. I don't think there's any sex scenes. So it's more of a fade to black kind of thing, which I'm fine with. That's fine with me. But I know there's some people out there who, if it doesn't have sex scenes in it, they don't want to read it. So So yeah, I wanted to delve into that one just to see if it's an author, I like, and, another historical author too. So the next one has been on my list for a while. I need to finally get to is Forever Your Rogue by Erin Langston. Now, I've heard like really good praise of her books, and so I wanted to delve in and see if she's an author I like. So he was her last chance. She was his first certainty. Cora, Lady Dane, gave up her dreams of happily ever after a long time ago. Now newly widowed, the young mother is determined to finally live on her own terms until a devastating betrayal shatters her hopes for the future. Faced with the prospect of losing her beloved children to overbearing relatives, Cora needs the help of one thing she swore she'd never have again, a husband. Nathaniel Travers has a care or responsibility in the world. Content with his wayward lifestyle, the charismatic rogue has no interest in marriage or duty, that is, until the Earl cuts off his bank accounts. No stranger to wild escapades, Nate is game for any scheme that keeps him afloat, even a madcap ruse with a stubborn viscountess. A fake engagement should be a straightforward solution to both of their dilemmas, but a summer at Cora's estate tests their arrangement, and it isn't long before their simmering attraction escalates to a feverish crescendo. Ugh, I hate when I have trouble with words. When they're forced to confront the real complications of their fake betrothal, Nate has to make the first worthy gamble of his life. If only Cora can risk her guarded heart. So this is like another one where it's more of a slow burn, kind of simmering romance where he has to obviously prove himself. I love those types of romances where the man, male or female, has to prove themselves and prove that they can be there for the long haul, especially because this woman has children. And that to me is like a very important thing. Like, you have to put your kids first when it comes to like any kind of new relationship, because those children are essentially going to be looking up to this person as, because it's like a father figure. So they're going to be looking up to this person. So you want to make sure that this person's going to be a good influence, because children are so, kids are so impressionable. They can just go down a bad path really quickly. So you definitely want to have strong people as like mentors. So I definitely want to see how he kind of like wins over the children and everything like that. If he can win over the kids, he's going to win her over, because kids are like, they're not dumb. They know somebody's like a bad person, so they're really, most kids are really intuitive, when it comes to that. So yeah, I definitely want to delve into this one here. It sounded really sweet. And then also like her fighting to save her kids because her family members want to take her kids away from her. And I'm like, yeah, it sounds like really emotional though. So that's why I was kind of like, ooh, I'm not sure if I'm gonna, like this one, because it sounds like it's gonna make me cry. So yeah, I definitely need to delve into that one, because there's another one I have on my Kindle too that's the same author, and I'm like, I need to read this first book just to see if it's like, if I like the other books. So the last one, this one here is controversial because people were not happy. I think it was maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, that there were some booktubers who were talking about this, and you talking like one person got accused of being a Otzi. I'll just say that, because, some things that YouTube doesn't want you to say. And so I'll just say that, being called a white supremacist. And I'm like, what? Yeah. Getting accused of that because of reading a book. there was some outrage. So I had put this book on the back burner for a while, and I'm like, I need to finally get through it, because I'm not going to let people intimidate me into not reading a book that's a book of fiction. Yeah, like it takes place in a time that actually did happen, but these characters are work fiction. So calm down. So I'm finally going to delve into Love and War by Shira Lin. Now this author, she's a Black author. So she's a singer posing as a maid. He's a surgeon forced to serve the right, which is World War II. For both of them, deception is the only way to survive the war. Cocktail singer Victor, or it's Victory maybe, Duplantier, knows Nazi-occupied Paris is not safe for a Black woman. But that's exactly why she's trying to get her family out. When she's caught in a roundup, a man with ocean blue eyes saves her from being sent to the camps. But can she really trust him? He might seem kind and handsome, but he's also an Nazi. It says surgeon Emil von Koenig was duped into serving the right for his deceitful father. When he encounters Victor, I think it's Victory, he knows he needs to keep her safe. He offers refuge at his estate in the Parisian countryside, but in order to stay undetected, she must pose as his maid. Their new roles as maid and master find them in close confines. As their connection grows, their passion is impossible to ignore. While war rages on around them, Emil and Victory believe they are safe, but danger is closer than ever. When the true nature of their relationship is discovered, everything will be at risk. Is their love strong enough to conquer the forces that conspire against them? So yeah, this is definitely more of controversial, because the man is a surgeon working for the right, the right, or whatever, however you say it, for the Nazis, so yeah, it's controversial. But I think, opening up a book, reading a book, it doesn't mean that you sympathize with the bad guys, just because you read a book that has these types of people in it doesn't mean that you sympathize with them, And I will say, if anybody knows anything about World War II and what happened with Nazis and everything, there were people who were working like underground, that were working what they say for them, but technically they were working against them. They were like basically like undercover agents, things like that. There were things like that that did happen, where there were people who were able to infiltrate that organization and were able to save some people, save a lot of Jews, things like that. So, for me, there are some people that I would say may have looked like they were part of like the bad guys, but they really were doing their best to help, in that instance. And that's what you want to do. Like whenever there's like a big organization or a big group where these people want to harm other people, you have to have people who are basically like undercover like agents, anybody who's like in any type of like either military or police or anything like that. You go underground and you go like undercover, like deep undercover, where they have no idea. So that way you can infiltrate the bad people and stop them, So it could be like it is with this one here, where he's like, he has, he's in a way forced to work, because it's either you're forced to work for these people or you die. So what do you think is going to happen, So, he could be like working, underground to the point of like helping people out, where the bad guys, don't know, you know? So it could be something like that. So that's why I want to delve into it and see if it's any good. And then, you know, if the author is any good, I'll check out some of her other books. There's like, I think that's the only historical I think she might have did. And it is considered a historical because it's been how many years since, you know, all that stuff happened. So it sounded interesting, and I wanted to check it out and see if it was any good. And I really just don't like the whole of like, oh, you're a bad person, or you condone that because you read this book. And it's like, no. You know, just because I read this author or that author doesn't mean I condone their behavior, you know, or whatever the case may be, you know. I think there is a way of like separating things, you know, and just using it as a way of like, it's a story, you know, ultimately it's a story. It takes place in a real time, yes, but also the fact that these are not real characters, you know. It's like, how many people love the movie Titanic, and it's like, it's based on an actual real live catastrophe that happened, and people like Jack and Rose, and those were not real characters. So it's like, am I going to say, oh my God, how dare you like Titanic because how many people died? How dare you like the Titanic movie? You know, it's like, it'd be the same thing. You know, it's like, just because it takes place in a real time, you know, doesn't mean that the author condones that bad behavior from bad people, and that she wants to hurt other people. You know, come on. People, I swear, just get outraged over the littlest fucking things, and then they want to cancel you. It's ridiculous. So yeah, I've been putting off that book for way too long, and I just need to read it and see for myself and see how it is and go from there. So those are the books that I need to get through and before 2026 and see. And like I said, it doesn't mean I'm going to get through them. It may be a DNF, but at least I could be like, okay, I got through the book, you know. At least, you know, when I delved into it, it's been on, you know, especially most of these have been on my TBR for a little while, and I'm like, I need to get through these. And there's, you know, there's more books that, you know, are on my Kindle too that I need to get through. But these ones here are definitely ones where I'm like, oh, I need to put these like higher up on my list to finally get through and go from there and decide whether or not I like some of these other authors that I haven't tried yet and see how they are. But yeah, that's it for this video here. Are there like 10 books on your list that you would like to get to before January of 2026? Let me know which ones you would like to read down in the comment section. But yeah, that's it for this video here. Have yourselves a good day. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other. And I'll see you all on the next video. All right. Bye.